Jimmy, good morning. How you doing?
Hi, Jeremy. I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Doing well. Today we're going to talk Social Security,
All right.
the timing of it. When should one consider taking the benefits?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be our topic of conversation today. So it should be kind of exciting because, look, at the end of the day, most all Americans have this opportunity in front of them.
Correct. Yeah, I think it's a very important decision, and yes, for somebody who's approaching retirement, or maybe has already retired but hasn't started claiming yet. Trying to figure out what's the best path forward for them.
Absolutely. Let's get after it. It's important to start out by saying that this is a highly customized decision, isn't it?
Definitely.
I mean, there is no, we were talking about this in advance. There's no reason to give generic advice on this subject. It's really should be customized to each individual.
Correct. It really is bothersome to me when you talk to a prospect or a client or somebody at a dinner party or whatever the case may be, that talk to a neighbor or a friend or a sibling who's given them advice without ever seeing their financial plan. And so they're giving these generalized bits of advice or maybe what works for them, and casting that upon others is that though that's the same way it should be for everybody, and it's just not the case. It's very much an individualized and customized decision.
Yeah, so I guess our warning here would be don't be overly influenced by your neighbor, your brother-in-law, social media, that
Right.
stuff. Look for some sort of a real analysis that's custom to you.
Absolutely.
And so the elements here that are going to be at play are going to be when to start, and then knowing that when you start, it's going to affect your cash flow in some way. If you start early, it's going to be lower. If you start later, it's going to be higher. And then Social Security, finally here, Social Security benefits. They are taxable. That doesn't mean you will get taxed. It just
Right.
means that you could get taxed.
That's exactly right.
We've used this slide before, and we thought it was really important to include it here because longevity risk is one of the biggest factors when it comes to Social Security benefits.
Yeah, no question.
So people tend to think they aren't going to last and live as long as what they will. It's just a psychological issue that has been proven to be very factual. Studies have shown that people kind of discount their longevity by at least 10%.
Yeah, I mean, you think about oftentimes folks will say things like, "Oh, well, my parents both passed at whatever age," and so they assume that they're going to, discounting the fact that the medical advancements that have taken place from the time that their parents were born to the time they were born are substantial, and then the benefits that have the advancements medically that have taken place since they've been born, to help keep them in better shape and more cognizant about how do I extend my life in a meaningful way. Yeah, it's a big factor here.
It's the intersection of facts and and emotions, I think. But that's why we want to put it in here. So a couple say they're born in 1965, they reach full retirement age 2032. Look, here's the facts. The healthy non-smoking male has a 47% chance of living to 90.
Hmm.
That female has a 57% chance. So basically, between the two of them, somebody's going to live to 90.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's
Now, 50% chance, anyways,
right.
right? So I mean, so that's real. Again, I think you raised a good point. Most people don't see it that way, but we want people to reframe it.
Absolutely.
This is where sort of the money hits the road. And we're going to use, on the left-hand side here, just kind of use the the basic kind of logistics of Social Security if you were born after 1960. It gets a little bit more confusing if you were born before 1960.
Right.
If somebody wants more information on that, we're happy to share it with them.
Sure.
It's out there.
Yeah.
But this is just makes it for a little bit cleaner look, doesn't it?
Right, exactly. And so what you're seeing with the purple graph here is that you basically have an 8-year range that at which point you're able to decide when you want to start taking the benefit. So as you see here, the full retirement age for somebody born in 1960 or later is 67 years of age. The earliest you can start to claim and take Social Security is 62. And if you haven't taken it by age 70, it's going to start automatically for you. So as you see here, you have a 6% average reduction in payment per year if you file before 67. So if you go back to age 62, you take it as early as possible, you're going to have a 30% reduction of what your full retirement benefit is. On the flip side of that, if you wait until after full retirement age, you get an 8% increase per year. And the reason for that is Social Security believes that you should receive the same amount of benefit regardless of when you start to file based on the average life expectancy. So, as we know with averages, plenty live longer, and shorter, they're averages. But that's the reason for them having this range of, a reduced benefit if you take it earlier and a higher benefit if you wait. So again, very customized decision to be made here. And then underneath that, you see the cost of living adjustments. One of the best parts of Social Security income for retirees is the fact that these benefits do adjust for inflation.
Yes.
So not many folks have pensions any longer, but those that do, there are very few pensions out there that are cost of living adjusted. So what's interesting to see is, as we know, we had a big spike in inflation in 2022, and so the benefit increase for those receiving benefits in 23 was almost 9%.
Yeah, it's big.
Right, but when you look back historically, going back to 1985, the average has been below 3%.
Mm-hmm.
So, the folks that have been receiving benefits, they probably saw a nice bump in their pay, but that's just to help keep up with the pace of inflation.
No doubt, that's a really big thing for people on fixed incomes and really anybody who's a beneficiary on Social Security. And so you're keeping up with inflation at the end of the day.
Correct.
Great. So then on the right-hand side here, sort of a generic look at what this means for dollars and cents, right? So if you're a 67-year-old at full retirement age, the assumption there is you're going to get paid $2,000 a month. Okay, you can see now what it looks like if you delay that to 68, 69, 70, or if you were to take it earlier.
Right.
That's those payments actually put into dollars and cents.
Yep.
So I think that's good. Obviously, everybody's got a different Social Security record. That's something that you can get through the Social Security Administration.
Mm-hmm.
They do a good job of giving you that report. You can get it online. You can get it mailed to you.
Right.
All right. Let's move on. So I've heard some people talk about Social Security timing is really all about taxes. Okay, that's fair.
Sure.
Right? I mean, for some people it is. It is a tax decision. So what we wanted to just do is lay out what your federal and possible state taxes would be on your Social Security benefits. So let's talk about the thing that really is going to be most impactful for most people, which is going to be the federal side, right?
Correct.
You've got two different types of filers here. There's a single filer,
right,
and there's a joint filer,
right,
joint couple,
yep,
married filing jointly, right?
Correct.
Walk us through these things.
Yeah, so what's important to note here, so you'll see we've got the 50% and 85% thresholds there. What that means is up to 50% of your benefits will be taxable to the IRS if your combined income right there for a single filer is between $25,000 and $34,000. So if your income as a single filer is below $25,000, then you actually won't get taxed on your Social Security benefit. But if your income is in that $25,000 to $34,000 range, you're going to pay tax on 50% of the benefit you received. So what that would mean is, in the example we saw before, is $2,000 per month was the benefit. If that were the case for a single filer, you had $24,000 of benefits, and Social Security was your only income, then you would not be subject to tax. But if your income was above that, right, then also you start paying tax on 50% of benefits. Whereas now if we go a little bit higher and your income is above $34,000 for a single filer, now 85% of the benefit that you receive is now subject to federal taxes. And then you can see the numbers for a joint couple that ranges to $32,000 to $44,000. It's that 50% clip. And then any joint couple making $44,000 and above, 85% of the benefit they receive will be subject to IRS taxation.
Not a huge mountain to climb here.
No, not at all.
And the thing that's notable, unlike the cost of living adjustments, the IRS has not updated these numbers. I don't know how long it's been. It's been a long time.
Sure.
Okay, so these are not experiencing the same sort of adjustments to cost of living.
Right. Yeah, and even just the ordinary income tax brackets that are inflation adjusted, right, have move along with inflation, and you're not seeing that here.
Absolutely. So the bottom line is more than 50% of Americans are actually paying taxes on their Social Security benefits.
Correct.
So we know it's a thing, and some people are going to be very tax averse. We specialize in working with people on taxes of all sorts.
Of course.
So this is a big factor when you look at things, right? Is it a huge factor? I don't know. I wouldn't say that, right? But it's definitely a factor.
It's something that you absolutely need to take into mind when when you have like required minimum distributions, or you have outside investment income, and decisions of where you can control the tax load to some extent. Again, where we specialize, if you can keep it below the 85% threshold, or even make it 0% for some, that's great. But it's not the case always. But again, this is why it is such a customized,
no doubt,
and individualized decision. You cannot give broad generic advice on this topic.
Lastly, just want to point out there are 12 states that do tax Social Security benefits at the state level.
Correct.
A couple of those states, Missouri and Nebraska, look like they're changing their laws on that. They're going to eliminate that. But you're still going to have 10 states out there, sort of from the heartland, mostly,
right.
James, a little bit from the East Coast, that are taxing those benefits.
Yep.
I'm sure that's not super popular in those states.
Probably
no
not.
Doubt. All right. So we want people to consider this. This is a great visual in terms of what you might want to consider when you're thinking about taking the timing around taking those Social Security benefits.
Right, absolutely.
So in the purple range, you've got claim at 62 is the call out. In that sort of darker charcoal color, claim at full retirement age. Remember that's 67 in this particular case.
Right.
And then claim at 70 in that blue range. Okay.
Yep.
And so the way that we look at this chart is you want to look at your expected annual return that you are receiving with your portfolio of investments, right?
Yep.
And so you look at that on the chart here on the left-hand side, and then on the bottom, the expected longevity. How long are you going to live?
Right, exactly.
Put those together, you kind of find your spot here.
Correct.
And all I wanted to say is we've got a little box drawn out there in orange, and that shows, look, net of fees, people are probably going to be getting somewhere between 3 and 7% on their expected returns, and they're probably going to live somewhere in the mid 70s to about 90. Right. So you can see it cuts across all the different thresholds.
Yeah, you have all the colors, and the claiming strategies are all highlighted there in that range. Again, I think a very individualized and customized decision to make here. I can't say that enough, but I think this chart is the easiest one to wrap your mind in, to just find your spot on the chart of what your expectation is. And that's a good starting point to figuring out what's the right time for you to claim.
Yep. No doubt about it. And so in those customized examples where we drill down with clients and we look at this, we can actually kind of pressure test what it looks like to take it at 67,
right,
and how much more money you would have if you lived to 90 and you were to delay until 70, or the opposite. If you were to take it 62, and what is the net benefit or the detriment to your portfolio?
Right.
For most people, it's not huge, but we don't want to underestimate like what cash flow means. Right. Yeah. It's a big deal.
No question. So and there's a big difference between are folks trying to optimize and maximize the benefit they're getting, versus are they more worried about their outside assets producing enough income for them, and they want to expedite and take it earlier. Again, there are a lot of different considerations that need to go into the decision of making this, which is why, as we say very frequently, you need to build a financial plan. You need to have somebody build you a comprehensive and customized financial plan to help guide the decisions that you're making. The investment allocation, how are you going to get a 3 to 7% return? Well, it depends on your asset allocation of what your expected return should be. So again, there's so many factors that go into this decision. It's really important that you educate yourself as much as possible before you make any of them.
Great way to frame it up. Thank you, friend. Thank you for the advice here. And if anybody has any desire to look at this more insightfully for them specifically, or they themselves and their perhaps their spouse,
right,
we're ready and willing to help. That's it for Two Fiduciaries for today. Everybody have a great day.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.